Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Thursday evening, March 27, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I'd really appreciate it if you guys get this video to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season. That's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know what did that be like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go to the next 168 hours, that's the next 7 days. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. As we head into Friday morning, we see an abundance of moisture into portions of northern and eastern parishes. We also see that moisture extending into portions of Hispaniola, eastern Cuba, the southern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos, extending all the way up into northern portion of North Atlantic. Then, by Friday afternoon, we see that rainfall extending across eastern, central, and western parishes on the Euro. What does the GFS show for the same time period? Friday morning, something similar, especially across northeastern and eastern parishes with the rainfall. Friday afternoon has that rainfall across especially central and western parishes. For sure, very interesting, very wet it looks like it's going to be. As we head into Saturday morning now, we see that there's not much rainfall for the morning like what we saw on Friday morning, but we still have a lot of moisture extending from Cuba into the Bahamas, into Hispaniola and Puerto Rico, extending all the way up into northern portion of North Atlantic. Then by Saturday afternoon, we see the rainfall across sticking to some central and western parishes in Jamaica. What does the GFS show for the same time period? Just like the Euro, rainfall across Cuba, the Bahamas, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, maybe the waters to the north of Jamaica on Saturday morning. Then by Saturday afternoon, we see rainfall across the northwestern end of the island. Heading into Sunday morning, what do we see? Some rainfall to our south on the Euro. Sunday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Sunday morning, rainfall to the north of us. Sunday afternoon has that rainfall across northern and western parishes. Very interesting. Let's see what's going to be taking place on Monday. Excuse me. So 12Z on Monday is valid for 7 a.m. and we can see rainfall to our north, rainfall to our south and east. Very interesting. And then by Monday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show for the same time period? Monday morning, rainfall to our north. Monday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes as well. What does Tuesday have in store for us? On Tuesday morning, we see not much rainfall across the island, but rainfall to our north, south, west, and east. And then by Tuesday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Tuesday morning, rainfall to our west, rainfall to our north. On the afternoon of Tuesday, we see rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. So very interesting. Something similar to what the Euro was showing. On a Wednesday, we see rainfall to our south. We see rainfall across eastern parishes in the morning hours. Then by Wednesday afternoon, we see rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? On a Wednesday morning, rainfall to our north, west, south, and east. On Wednesday afternoon, we see rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. Now we're wrapping it up, going to the end of the 168 hours. So on the Euro, this is valid for 7 a.m. on Thursday, April 3. And we can see the moisture to our south. We can see the moisture across eastern parishes. What does the GFS show as well for 7 a.m. on Thursday, April 3? we see rainfall more so to our north. Then by the end of the 168 hours, we see more of that rainfall to our south. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Either way, the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps have been in consensus that it's going to be colorful, it's going to be very wet over the next 7 days. Look at the greens into the yellows, into the oranges and the reds, even the purples. That represents anywhere from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall all the way to maybe 3 inches of rainfall in some spots. We know the most in the way of rainfall is represented by the dark reds, purples into the pinks. And we can see an abundance of that across sections of Colombia, sections of Hispaniola, sections of eastern Cuba. And if we take a look at the Euro model, we see something similar with the very same areas. We see the purples into Hispaniola, eastern Cuba, Colombia. And we also see on the GFS sections of Panama, Costa Rica shaded. Even sections of northeastern South America, maybe Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, even a portion of Guadeloupe and Dominica right here shaded in purples too. So maybe some isolated flash flooding could take place, while the areas that are shaded in the greens, yellows, oranges and reds going to be getting at least up to an inch of rainfall. We're talking about areas such as the ABC Islands, Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and Grenadines, Barbados, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, sections of Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis, US and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Cuba, the Bahamas, sections of Florida, the eastern Yucatan, Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with this forecast. I know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. But regarding Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation forecast for the next 7 days, we can clearly see that Jamaica is shaded in a lot of greens, yellows, even some slight oranges across the eastern end to the western end. The Euro going all the way up to 65 millimeters of rainfall, with the lowest being down to maybe 15 millimeters of rainfall. And we know that most of this rainfall is going to be taking place during the afternoon hours. The GFS showing something similar with the rainfall totals for sure. So we're starting to wrap up the month of March and we're starting to get wet as we head into April. I'm going to be grateful, no complaints here. We need the water to keep the water in our pipes in general. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see a ridge of high pressure right here across the northern portion of North Atlantic, and we know this is responsible for sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. We can see a frontal system right here extending from the northern portion of North Atlantic all the way down to the north of Hispaniola, where it has induced a trough in the area. We can see a frontal system right here extending off the coast of the United States. Definitely a trough that has induced into the area. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can make out all of these entities. We can see the clouds right here associated with the trough off the coast of the US, and we can see the clouds right here associated with the other trough to the north of the Caribbean. And we can also make out the low to mid-level flow of the clouds being steered from east-west, all courtesy of the ridge of high pressure to the north. And we know that some of these clouds that are pushing through the Caribbean definitely have some moisture within them. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean a little later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Thursday, March 27, 2025. It was stated that rainfall would have been in the forecast for sections of some eastern, southern and western parishes on Thursday afternoon. And if you remember yesterday's video, we also highlighted that there would have been a chance for a section of northern Jamaica getting some of the action. Northern Jamaica, we're talking about Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. Southern Jamaica, we're talking about Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew and St. Thomas. And we also mentioned that eastern and western parishes will have gotten in on some of the action on the afternoon hours. I know eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? At around 6:51 a.m., the visible satellite image was posted here on our Twitter page with the Jamaica. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that these posts aren't only made here on our Twitter page, but they're made on our Instagram page with it.Jamaica, on our TikTok page Weather Jamaica, and on our Facebook page Weather Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there, as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So you can see the visible satellite imagery that was posted at that early morning hour. And we definitely had some clouds bring some overcast skies, if not some isolated showers, to sections of some northern parishes, Portland, St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney, maybe even sections of St. James might have gotten in on some of the overcast skies, if not some isolated shower activity. Then by 12:11 p.m., the visible satellite image was posted once again. And look at the difference between the first one and the second one. Definitely dull, considering that it was in the early morning hours, 6:51 a.m. But by midday, 12:11 p.m., look how bright it shows the clouds, because the sun was at peak intensity, definitely highlighting the clouds for sure in the white across eastern, central, and some southwestern parishes. Definitely got some overcast skies, if not some isolated showers, across sections of St. Thomas, Portland, Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, St. Mary, St. Anne, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, even sections of southern Westmoreland might have gotten in on the action too. And even by around 4:15 p.m., the visible satellite images were posted, and they still highlighted that we're still getting in on some clouds, mainly across some eastern, southern, and western parishes for sure. Definitely overcast, definitely got some isolated showers across some spots. And if we take a look at the visible satellite imagery of Jamaica before we lost the sunlight, we can make out what took place. Definitely not as robust across the northern areas, but definitely across the southern and eastern and western areas right here. That's where the brunt of the clouds were. That's where we got the overcast skies, if not some isolated showers. And we saw that as we're losing the sunlight, some of the clouds were starting to clear out. Even the infrared close-up satellite images highlighted these grayish whitish shades that represent the cloud cover, but not much in the way of convection. No blues, greens, yellows, oranges, or reds, or blacks, or grays, or purples. No deep convection, no sparkling white dots represent lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes at all. And if we take a look at the live camera here from See Jamaica's YouTube channel, showing what was taking place on the Bogwalk Gorge, we can see people in their vehicles going about their business. Definitely dry conditions at that time, 2:13 p.m. And we can see the real Cobra right there chilling as well. Definitely dry conditions experienced over there today, but you can see that it was overcast for the most part. And if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams for your viewing pleasure, and they're planning on increasing the amount of cameras that they have in and around the island. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. Taking a look at the total accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, this map does indeed paint quite the picture of where we might have had a rainfall today, across sections of northern parishes in the morning, across sections of some southern parishes during the afternoon hours for sure. And we have a few comments coming in from some of our subscribers and followers. We have Youth Silvera 1179 stating it was raining very hard for the last 2 hours in West Portland. Thanks for confirming that. We also have Active 4081 stating overcast and hot. Even on our Instagram page, we have Marlon_1God stating overcast sky here in Clarendon. McDonald Yashima stating it's raining in Manchester. Even on our Twitter page, we had some comments coming in. Bridget DR stating cold and wet off the Palisadoes, and Fest Genius stating it fell heavily for true. Thank you all for confirming what the weather was like in your area. And if we reload the very latest still image from the Weather Nerds website, the latest still image is showing 0035 UTC, which is actually 7:35 p.m. So this just came out 10 minutes ago. Considering that it's 7:45 p.m. right now, and we can make out some clouds still across the western end of the island right here. Sections of St. Elizabeth, Manchester, section of western Westmoreland and western Hanover getting in on some of the action. We also see some clouds to the east of St. Thomas and Portland. Do these clouds have rainfall within them? That's the question. Or are they just there to block out the stars, if not the moon, this evening? Unfortunately, the Cuban Doppler radar glitched out last night, March 26, at around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's actually 9:30 p.m. our time. So we don't have the latest to show from that Doppler radar imagery. Jamaican Doppler radar imagery still down. But look at the Guantanamo Bay Cuban naval radar imagery, showing some isolated shores across the far eastern end of Cuba. We also see some moderate to heavy rainfall affecting portions of the western peninsula of Haiti as we speak. Not seeing much of anything across northeastern Jamaica at all. But if you take a look at the Cayman radar, you're also not seeing much of anything across southern Cuba or the Cayman Islands. But we do see some isolated shores to the southwest of Jamaica right there. And if we take a look at the live camera from See Jamaica's YouTube channel, showing halfway through in St. Andrew, we can see people in their vehicles going about their business, people walking about going about their business. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams for your viewing pleasure. And you can also see Crossroads, the panoramic city view. They're also planning on increasing the amount of cameras that they have in and around the island. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see about 26 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. And by about 4 a.m. on Friday, temperature should dip down to about 23 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 24 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Friday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Friday. And we can see Jamaica right here embedded in the grey color that we know represents average temperatures. So 0 on the scale. It's not yellows, oranges, or reds that represent above normal temperatures. And it's not blues into the greens that represent below normal temperatures. It's average. And the average temperature for the month of March across Jamaica is around 87.3 degrees Fahrenheit. And when that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that's around 30.7 degrees Celsius. So that should be the temperature forecast for Jamaica on Friday. And we have at least one maintenance outage advisor here from my JPS Online's Twitter page. And we know that we have to highlight this because we know that when we have power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or AC to cool us down. So if you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, let them know that a power outage is coming their way on Friday, March 28, 2025. And we're referring to Golden Grove, Dalby, Ducking Field, Johnson Mountain, Wheeler Field, Quaw Hill, Barking Lodge, and a New Pera, if I'm not butchering any of these names, all in the parish of St. Thomas from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, wear lightweight clothing and use sunscreen. It's Friday, so dress down. Check on others, including children, elderly people with medical conditions, and pets. Be cool, stay indoors, and make use of fans and air conditioners. Avoid alcohol and caffeine as they can make dehydration worse. Limit non-essential strenuous activity during the hottest part of the day. And I cannot stress enough the importance of keeping hydrated. Drink lots of water throughout the day, even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map, we can see an abundance of dry air across the entire Atlantic basin, but we see breaks in the dry air in some of these yellows across portions of the Caribbean and the Gulf. That's the low end of the scale in terms of dry air, like what we see here on the key on the bottom right. While we see a lot of blues that represent moisture across the eastern Pacific and the southern main development region where we have the intertropical convergence zone. That's what we want to see. We want to see the moist air, we want to see the yellows that represent the low end of the scale in terms of dry air. Because we know that dry air makes the atmosphere stable, making it harder for it to rain, making it harder for us to get storms in general. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 18 UTC on Friday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Friday. We can see the browns represent the Saharan dust extending all the way from Africa and Europe, extending down across the southern main development region into portion of northern South America, the southern and southwestern Caribbean, the central Caribbean Sea, and the Windward Islands. We're getting in some of the slight brown shades, but it's on the low end of the scale in terms of the Saharan dust right here, anywhere from 1 to 10, maybe some 12 in the eastern Caribbean. But we're glad that it's the low end of the scale. We're glad that we're not seeing all of these dark brown shades that we see on the right side of the key that we see across Africa. That we know means very hazy skies that can trigger some amount of respiratory illnesses in some persons, asthma, sinusitis, you name it. So we're indeed grateful that that is the forecast for 1 p.m. on Friday. Clearly Jamaica is going to be in the clear right here. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we're starting to see some of the purples into the pinks come back across the central to the northwestern Caribbean, even into the Gulf. That represents anywhere from 2 maybe to 2.5 meter wave heights. We're also seeing a mix of it across the Greater Antilles, some light blues into dark blues as well. But regarding Jamaica's wave forecast, on the north coast tomorrow, waves should be up to 1.4 meters. On the south coast, 1.5 meter wave heights. And because all of this is because of the winds. Clearly we see the wind coming in from the east across the eastern Caribbean to the central Caribbean, even into the western Caribbean, kind of curving more from east northeast to west southwest. Look at the strong winds across the Bahamas, curving northwestward into the Gulf right here. We see the yellows into the golds that represent maybe 25 to 30 knots. But regarding the greens, we know that represents anywhere from 10 to 15, maybe even gusting to 20 knots. And regarding Jamaica's close up, we see the winds coming in from the east, averaging 17 knots on the north coast, averaging 16 knots on the south coast. And we also see where the air is going to be piling up across the inland areas of some central and western parishes. So if we have some daytime heating, that's where we could get in on some amount of rainfall for sure. And whatever comes off of the sea from the east or from the east northeast, that could definitely bring us some rainfall for sure. And with the upper level wind still coming in from the west, if we actually get some deep convection to blow those high cold cloud tops, if we get some convection going, those will be blown off towards the east. But regarding the actual rainfall forecast maps now, this is why we're here. This is what we want to see. And there's a lot of rainfall in store. Look at this map. This is valid for 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is actually 5 a.m. on Friday. And as a matter of fact, don't think this is going to be starting at 5 a.m. It's going to be starting long before 5 a.m. And look at all of these dark blues, even into greens, even into yellows. These 1 hour totals are ridiculous. And they are showing rainfall across maybe sections of St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, section of Eastern St. Thomas. Definitely going to be raining in the early morning hours. Then even by 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 9 a.m. Jamaica time, we still are getting plagued with rainfall across section of St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, section of St. Thomas, section of St. Andrew, getting in on the mix. We'll see how it actually plays out. Then by 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 2 p.m. Jamaica time, look at what's taking place. The rainfall has shifted from the northeast to mainly central and western parishes. So maybe section of Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, section of St. Anne, Clarendon, Manchester, Trelawney, St. Elizabeth, St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland. Look at the greens into the yellows. This is a lot of rainfall expected, and the thing is, both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this forecast. It's definitely going to be raining across especially central and western parishes, more so south central and southwestern parishes during the afternoon hours. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Even by around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 5 p.m. Jamaica time, we could still have some rainfall lingering. We see some blues across the inland areas of some central parishes and western parishes. So even maybe by the time I'm recording the video for Friday evening, we're talking about rainfall still taking place in the current imagery. Even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps over the next 24 hours are very colorful. These maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 3 on Saturday when calculated. That's all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Friday. And we can clearly see the greens into the yellows into the oranges that represent what we see here on the key on the right. That's the 0.1 of an inch of rainfall all the way up to an inch of rainfall, up to 0.96 of an inch of rainfall expected. In Portland, that's close to an inch. GFS is a bit more robust, passing an inch of rainfall, 1.29 inches of rainfall expected in Portland. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Either way, we know that all of this for the northeast is in the morning, and we know that all of this across central and western parishes is for the afternoon. So we're definitely going to be in for a rainfall, and whatever happens, we'll definitely take it, because we're in the peak of our dry season. We're in March. We shouldn't even be getting so much rainfall. We shouldn't even be getting rainfall at all. But we're getting it, and there are no complaints. We're indeed grateful for that. In Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top, we usually receive up to 10 millimeters of rainfall in March. In Montego Bay, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the bottom, we usually receive up to 2.2 inches of rainfall in March. And I would like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives for the month of March in terms of rainfall, or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that website will show you that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. You know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall, so you can do the math yourself. Alright, so that is it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have the clouds associated with the stalled out trough right here, extending from northern portion of North Atlantic all the way down into the Bahamas right there. We can also see the low to mid-level flow of the clouds being steered from east to west from the main development region into the Caribbean. Clouds across section of Hispaniola, Jamaica as we speak. The usual clouds across section of Central America too. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar imagery of the northeastern Caribbean, let's see what's happening near Puerto Rico as we speak. As of 7:55 p.m., we can see some rainfall, some moderate to heavy rainfall at that, across northwestern Puerto Rico, some isolated shores across southeastern Puerto Rico, some isolated shores across the US and British Virgin Islands, some isolated shores to the east of Antigua and Barbuda, as well as Guadeloupe. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images from earlier, you can see that it was definitely raining across section of northern and western Puerto Rico for sure. And regarding the Barbados radar, the usual isolated bands of hit or miss showers passing to the north of Barbados, some showers to the east of Barbados pushing westward, maybe to affect Barbados later on, if not already. You also see some moisture to the south of Barbados pushing westward. Section of St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada already getting nailed. Maybe even section of Tobago and Trinidad already getting some of the action too. And if you take a look at the weather via Doppler radar images, we can see some isolated shores across northwestern Venezuela, northwestern Guatemala, sections of Colombia, sections of Guyana getting in on some of the action too. And regarding where the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both the Euro and the GFS models are adamant that the most rainfall over the next 24 hours should be across sections of Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, sections of French Guyana, Jamaica, Eastern Cuba, Hispaniola, the Bahamas, and Turks and Caicos for sure. While the isolated showers in the greens and the yellows should be across southern Venezuela, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe, Puerto Rico, sections of northern portion of the Bahamas, section of northern portion of Cuba, section of southeastern portion of the Yucatan, Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua getting on some of the action too. And we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with this forecast. I know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.